Welcome to the Soul Engineering Your Life podcast. I'm Ravi Tangri, your Soul Engineer. I work with business owners, CEOs, and professionals to help them grow their business and get their life back. And this podcast is designed to help you step out of the busyness, out of the crazy, and bring more heart and soul into all of your life. As I look around the room and hear the vibrant conversations and feel the excitement radiating from everyone, I realize, wow, miracles can happen when you set a clear intention and ask, how can we make it happen? And then follow your intuition. It's February 1st, 2010, and I'm standing in awe by our registration desk in the pavilion at Pier 21 in Halifax. The feeling of bliss permeating the entire hall is complemented by the sun shining through the wall of windows overlooking Halifax Harbor and Georges Island. And the gentle waves in the harbor reflect the ease and flow that went into creating this day. 3 weeks ago, on January 12th, a massive earthquake devastated Haiti. Like many people, I watched the footage with sadness, and I donated to the Red Cross. I saw initiatives of friends of mine, things that they launched on Facebook to help, and my intuition slowly niggled in the back of my brain. It was nearly a week after the earthquake that I called a dear friend of mine, Kim King, and we talked about how we both wished we could do more. We talked about a concert or some sort of festival that would bring people together to make a bigger impact. Then it hit us. Not a concert. We're both involved in the meetings industry. I'm a speaker and Kim runs a speakers bureau. What's more, we're both active leaders in our professional associations. I'm president-elect of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, CAPS, and Kim is the past president of the local chapter of Meeting Professionals International, MPI. We brought in 2 more leaders from the local MPI chapter into our team, Roberta Dexter and Alana Hurdle, and we set to work planning. Instead of a concert, we thought, what about bringing speakers together for a day of learning and sharing and giving? I mean, this is the world that we know. I could bring in the speakers, and Kim, Rhonda, and Alana, as meeting professionals, would arrange the venue and the event. So we set to work. And just like the waves rolling in one after the other outside the window, all of the pieces came together, and everyone that we reached out to said, yes, absolutely. Every speaker I spoke with who was in town agreed to donate their day in a heartbeat. One of our members, David Guthrow, even flew from across the continent in Vancouver to help me host the event. And our national CAPS office took care of the registrations and payments, and they covered all the credit card charges. Helena St. James, a local CAPS member, was on vacation in Mexico. But she and her husband, Neil Everton, helped us craft our promotions while on holiday in record time. And the most amazing gift that our MPI team brought in was the donation not only of the full facilities of Pier 21, but also all the lunch and catering from RCR Hospitality Group. We put the event out and sold out in just a couple of days. So we got another room from Pier 21, split our speakers between the two rooms and doubled our capacity. And then we sold out again. I look down at my phone and I see that Kim, Alana, Roberta, and I have exchanged 532 emails over the last 2 weeks. It's really like surfing a tornado and feeling totally safe and supported as you do so. Every time we checked our emails, there were like 10 more responses to the last few from our team. And so, with about 2 weeks from first idea to the launch of Speak Out for Haiti, something that should be impossible, with zero expenses, we've pulled in $12,000 plus $5,000 from MPI Montreal. And with some of those funds matched by the Government of Canada, we'll be passing on well over $23,000 to the Canadian Red Cross to help Haiti. As I look around, I can see that the fullness of my heart is shared by everyone in this room. Yes, everyone is going to learn and grow from the speakers that they see today. They'll get that value. But that's almost irrelevant. They know that being here is making an impact for those who are in dire need. And all this came from a niggling from Intuition just 2 weeks ago. It does not matter whether or not it makes sense. It doesn't matter if it's impossible. What matters is the truth you feel in your heart, the calling in your soul, and the yes you say when that comes to you, trusting that the universe will pave your way when you take that step into the unknown. Are you ready to take that step?
Check it out, check it out. Oh, are you ready for this?
For over 17 years, certified speaking professional Michelle Cederberg has captivated audiences with her empowering and humorous messages about how to set worthwhile goals, get energized for success, and live a bigger life. She believes that personal and professional success is directly influenced by how well we harness the physical, mental, and emotional capacity we each have within us. She helps people boost that capacity so they gain clarity, build confidence, and get the discipline to create the life and career they want. Michelle is the author of 3 books, and her new book, which we're going to be chatting a bit about, is The Success Energy Equation, and it debuted as a bestseller in October 2020. Michelle, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Robbie.
So glad to have you. This is going to be so much fun. The success energy equation, I loved going through this because it's so you. Michelle.
Yeah, those who know me say absolutely that. And the subtitle, which is how to regain focus, recharge your life, and really get shit done. That is absolutely me.
Yeah. I love the way that you've laid it out simply. You've got the research. It's solid there.
I call it an approach based on science and common sense. So it's a bit cheeky, but it's also it's some interesting reading, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, you start off by talking about how overwhelmed everybody is. I talk about the culture of busyness that we have. Like we just, we are fried. And then another thing that ties into that, because we are so overwhelmed, we are on autopilot, right?
Yes.
I mean, depending on the research that you look at, some people say we have 90,000 thoughts a day. Some people say, 250,000. But most people say that 99% of the thoughts we have are the same that we had the previous day. Because
it's interesting, isn't it? The research that I did, there was two. One particular study that I read said that 98% of respondents spent at least part of every day on autopilot. So part of every day, kind of going through a routine that they're not even thinking about. And the research that I could actually find, I call it, according to various sources on the internet, we make upwards of 35,000 decisions a day. And so our brain is always processing that information. And because there's so much information coming in, a lot of it gets pushed to the subconscious. And that's when we operate on autopilot. But it can be as simple as your drive to work, if you're still driving to work, or your morning routine. And I say you need to probably have to stop right now and think about, what is my morning routine? Because you do it on autopilot. Left sock, right sock. Do I brush my teeth first? Do I have a shower first? Whatever order it is, I can guarantee that you're operating in almost exactly the same steps every single day. And when you're doing that, your brain is not lit up. You're just kind of going through the motions, if you will.
Well, I mean, how many of us have driven to work on a Saturday morning, right?
Doesn't happen. Well, are you saying that people do because they get in their car and they go on to the same routine? Yeah, maybe. Fair enough.
Totally, right?
I work from home, so I just totally.
Well, that's you may be going the wrong room.
From the kitchen to my office, yeah.
But those that actually commute, I mean, I know I've done that. It's like, damn, I was going to the shopping or whatever.
Or you're driving home with a plan to stop at the bank and you miss the bank stop because your brain knows how to go home. But the problem is, I mean, those kinds of examples of autopilot help us to function, to help us to not implode. But the challenge comes when autopilot becomes our go-to operating system, so that we're going through our important work items, and we're going through our relationship communication, and everything that we're doing is on autopilot. So we end up focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time, or we end up alienating people because we're up in our heads, or not present, if you will.
Right. And when you add that bit of the overburden to it, I mean, it seems like a default thing, so that we don't have to deal with things. We just shift to autopilot more. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the book, I call it 21st and a quarter century stress. Don't ask me how I came up with that name, but we're not even at 21st and a quarter century, but we're in the most tech-driven time in our lives, and that is impacting how we process information as well. Everything that we do, it gets fed to us on our little supercomputers that we hold at our fingertips. So not only are we dealing with the stress of everyday life, of work, of traffic, of things that are going on physically and emotionally, but now we've got this cognitive stress of constantly getting push notifications, or we've got beeps and texts that we have to respond to, or we get just pulled into the device because, I need a break and I'm going to check my social or whatever it might be. Our devices, it's fascinating. They were designed in a way that hooks the neural pathways in our brain the same way that gambling and addiction does. So we reach for these things, to get that little hit of dopamine, just to feel that stress release, which it's kind of scary.
It is. Now, in your book, you identify 3 types of stresses, right? Acute, chronic, pervasive. Can you just quickly sort of clarify that so people can get their heads around it? Because when most people think of stress, they think of that, the more the acute type.
Yeah, well, I mean, every single one of us has stress every single day, and acute stress is normal stress. That's stress with adequate recovery. So you have a tough meeting, or you have a run-in with somebody that rubbed you the wrong way, and then you withdraw and you take a few deep breaths of air, you take a break, you go for a walk, and you allow your body to come back to normal, from the stress response, which is increased heart rate and blood pressure and all those things that happen. Chronic stress is stress without adequate recovery. And that is, you have the tough meeting or you have the tough run-in and you just go into another challenging situation, or you go into another busy part of your day and you don't give yourself that chance to, I need to take a pause. We go from one stress to the next stress to the next stress. Our body is telling us signs it needs a break, but we say, I don't have time. So the pervasive stress is what I was just talking about earlier, the 21st and a quarter century stress that now is also coming at us through our devices. So don't get the physical recovery. Now we don't get the emotional cognitive recovery either. We're what I call FOMO driven, tech fed, unrelenting, pervasive 24-hour news cycle. Whatever it is that's feeding you from your devices or whatever you're going in for, it clogs up our cognitive bandwidth, and we're just all day long exhausting ourselves mentally, emotionally, cognitively, because we don't pause and put that thing away and just be present.
Now, if we bring this into 2020, let's start just with the pandemic and how that's impacted that for us in this year.
And interestingly, so my book was released in October of 2020, and I finished writing it in January. So before we really knew the impact of what the pandemic would be. But as the months went on and as I was going through the editing process, I realized, wow, like this book has become somewhat of an unofficial COVID survival guide because now for so many of us, we have the day-to-day stressors of life, but we've added in this a whole bunch of unknowns and uncertainty and change. So moving from working in an office to working from home, working from home with your spouse or your partner, working from home and doing schooling with your kids at the table, working from home and worrying about your elderly parents who are in a long-term care home, not being able to see the rest of your family, all of these, the uncertainty of the economy and our future and all of these things that are going on. All of a sudden we're going, wow, like, I'm not feeling so good. I'm not feeling so happy. I'm worried. I'm stressed. I'm depressed. I don't know if you've been experiencing that with your clients, but I certainly have with mine and many of my friends as well.
Yeah, I mean, as they said, that's the other silent pandemic that's going through is the mental health challenges coming through this, because with lockdown that we had earlier this year, potentially more coming now, and that's a pandemic. But now, I think right now, we are actually recording this on November 3rd, the U.S. election day. I mean, the last several weeks, even if you're not American, you and I are in Canada, it's still incredibly relevant what's happening there. And
it's so relevant. And I mean, it's not just been the last several weeks. It's been the last several months where I'm obsessed with what's going on down there, because yes, it impacts our lives. And I worry for my American friends, and I worry for our economy, and I worry for my business that was meant to be moving into the States, this year, and that's on hold now, and all of those things. Like, yeah, today is an important day for Canadians as it is for Americans. And man, oh man, that stress on top of pandemic, on top of economy, on top of my own business, and you name it. I'm in Alberta too, which is oil country, and there's not much going on with that either. So yeah.
Yeah. And, when you talk about pervasive stress, to me, what jumps out is CNN is designed to perpetuate that the way that it is, right? And the media, like CNN is the archetype almost, but all the media, and it has been ramped up to the nth degree with this. And the irony is, the reality is it's going to be going on now because they're not going to know numbers. So there's so many people that are going to be looking every 2 seconds at the phone for what the latest hit.
It's quite ridiculous that I woke up this morning going, oh my gosh, it's U.S. election day. And I will be thinking about it all day. I will be following it tonight. And yes, the little device that I have right next to me, I'll be checking in, as I'm sure a lot of people, across North America will. That's today, but on any other given day, it's whatever is happening in the news or whatever is happening on your social channels or whatever you use to distract yourself, whether it's games or whatever that we reach for. And so that's that pervasiveness that never allows us to really kind of check in with what's here right now, this present moment, and the real people and the real situations that are surrounding us.
So how does this obsessiveness with the devices, with this pervasive stress, intertwine with the aspects of our life that are in autopilot?
That's a good question. I mean, our devices add to the autopilot. And in many ways, I think that when we're on autopilot, it's easier to stay in it than it is to stop and get off it. And so if I'm feeling stressed, what I can do is I can pick up my device and I can get a hit of dopamine that makes, so it's one of the happy hormones that makes me feel a little bit more calm. So, I can go and I can check and see how many likes I have on the post I did this morning. I get a little hit of dopamine. I feel calm. I don't have to work too hard to get present and to really step out of autopilot. So the device is not only feeding our autopilot, but it's helping us to come off of it. It's what I call a dopamine cortisol cycle. Well, I'm feeling stressed, reach for the device. Feeling stressed, reach for the device. The device causes stress, reach for another aspect of the device. It's fascinating.
So, well, you talk about the dopamine hit, but one of the things I'm curious what you think. One of the things I talk about is, when we have those little stressors, even, the Heart Math Institute says that we catalyze for every time we have those, we catalyze 1,300 chemical and 30 hormonal changes in our body, toxins that pump through. And
that's insane.
I believe that we get hooked on that because it's not just when those events happen, it's when we're imagining it. Because if the driver cuts us off, we come in, what's the first thing we do? We tell everybody what an idiot that driver was, yes. Right? So every time we're getting that. So I think we are addicted to those toxins. What do you think about that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, my background is as an exercise physiologist, and I always say that, our success is so much driven by the physical machinery, right? By our physical body and the brilliant mind in it. And in the book, I talk a lot about how we talk to ourselves matters, how it'll drive our beliefs, and our energy is not just the physical energy we gain from exercise. It's physical, emotional, social, spiritual, mental, cognitive. There are so many parts of us that if we just pay attention, there's stuff going on all the time. So I absolutely believe that we can perpetuate our stress just by thinking about that thing that happened. I mean, here's a prime example. I was talking to one of my coaching clients the other day, and she was talking about having been bullied in high school. Right. And I was bullied in high school by these two girls who shall remain unnamed. And even just the conversation with her brought up those feelings of angst and anger in me about those two people who bullied me in high school. And it was fascinating because that was over 30 years ago. But that is the power of, our mind and our, all of the chemicals that are coming around in our body. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's,
Yeah, no, well, I can understand because I was not exactly a fit in. The fun thing is when 30 years later, some of those people show up at your sessions. So the doorway, as I'm getting from what you shared, is out of that autopilot. You've already alluded to it, is awareness.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So share a little bit about how we can open that door and start to move through it.
Yeah. In the book, I list 12 reasons you might be on autopilot. And they're kind of day-to-day things that you might not necessarily think of as being on autopilot. But when I talk about getting off autopilot, I do start with getting present. And I say how we do anything is how we do anything is how we do everything. And you can dispute that. But one of the things I suggest in the book is to simply start your day in a different way, because there's research that, I don't even know the current numbers, but, 78%, I guess that number is higher now, of people who have their devices in the room, they will check in with their phone before they even get out of bed. And if that's your entry point into the day, then you're already getting into that cycle of my day is not mine to control. And so I will say one of the first things that we can do is when we wake up, before you check your device, check in with yourself before you check in with the world. Just lie there in bed and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? How was my sleep? What am I thinking I'd like to accomplish today? Just those simple little check-ins with yourself can be a great way of getting present rather than, oh, I'm awake, let's get on with the day. Before, feet are hitting the ground and you're off running before you've even gotten present to what's going on around you. So check in with yourself before you check in with the world. Leave that device. To my mind, it shouldn't even be in your bedroom. And people will say, well, I need an alarm clock. And I say, well, there's these things called alarm clocks. Right? Buy an alarm clock. But so get present with yourself before you get present with the world. And throughout the day, this is such a ridiculously simple thing that every single one of us has at our disposal at every moment of every single day is if you're feeling your day getting off track, if you're feeling like you need to slow down, get present, somebody's made you angry, whatever it might be, you just feel like you need to connect with yourself, just stop and give your brain and body oxygen. Just stop and breathe. Our bodies are on default, so we know how to breathe. And because of that, we don't necessarily pay attention to how we're breathing. And most of us will be breathing in the upper third of our lungs, right? Taking these not so deep breaths of air because we say to ourselves, I don't have time. Off we go. But if we're stressed or if we're feeling like we're disconnected, to stop and just 4 to 6 seconds in, pause, 4 to 6 seconds out. You do that 3 or 4 times pressed up against the wall in the hallway, and you're actually going to feel a little bit better. You're actually going to feel a little bit of presence, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, that's the relaxation response, right? That you're triggering.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the deeper senses, practice of presence, things like meditation and such? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan, because I always talk about, the quick 4 to 6 second breathing as a mini meditation. It's almost to remind ourselves that we do have this access to this, but meditation, and you're probably better versed in this than I am, is so great for your brain. Like it strengthens all the parts of our brain that we need to be functioning at a high level. And I want to say weakens, but it diminishes the actions of the amygdala, the 2 almond-shaped parts of your brain that are responsible for the fight or flight response. So not only are we learning and remembering things better in the hippocampus, but we're, our prefrontal cortex, that part of our brain that does all the conducting of everything we got to do, it also gets stronger just through breathing. We also get calmer and connected with people around us better. You can list them off. There's a lot of good reasons for meditation. And it doesn't have to be, this is what I often say, it doesn't have to be the two times 20 minutes a day transcendental deep meditation. It can be 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, just connecting with breath. It doesn't have to be long. So
and
powerful.
It's sometimes, it's not always, people think of meditation as very gentle, but I love dance. And for me, if I'm partner dancing, a dance where I'm choreographing like salsa or whatever, crazy fast, you've seen me, that's mindfulness.
To keep up with you.
That's mindfulness.
Yeah.
Because I cannot think about anything outside of my partner in music.
Well, and this is what I talk about in the book. 2 of the ways to get off autopilot is doing activity like that, or making,
right.
Baking or building or constructing or creating, because when we're using our hands or when we're active with our bodies, we have to be fully present to what's here now. Like I'm a mountain biker. So if I'm going down, a steep, rocky, rooty track, I need to be paying attention to everything that's happening in front of me, or I'm going to end up, wrapped around a tree. And it's the same thing as the dancing. If I'm not fully present, it's going to have a different outcome. Right.
And people wouldn't think of something that dynamic as a mindful exercise.
No, but it is absolutely call it an active meditation. But I also walk my dog every morning, and, when I'm with her and just kind of being present with her, same thing. I don't have my device out for anything but taking the odd photo of my crazy puppy. But it's a great way to start the day.
So I want to get to your success energy equation, but one key part of it is goal setting. And I got to tell you, I loved when you said the SMART goals are done. I mean, you're the
SMART
90s, the specific, measurable, accurate, realistic, trackable, right? So tell me what's so different about your approach to goal setting. What makes goals effective?
Well, it's something that I learned when I was doing my coach training. And, I say, start with the end in mind, put the art in SMART and start with the end in mind. And the way that I describe the SMART goals, because there's different ways of doing it, but specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. That's the ones that I learned. And the time-based, I think it's important to have some time frame. But if you set your goals properly, the timing will come. It will work for you. So like I say, yes, be aware of the time you want to achieve your goals in. But for me, the T is thrilling. And that is, creating a goal that it won't go away. I just want to achieve this goal so badly. Two of them in my past was writing my first book called Energy Now, and one was running a marathon. Those two things would never go away. As much as I tried to push them away, the goal kept popping up, but I still wasn't achieving them. The realistic to me is a little bit safe. And yes, we have to be aware of our own skill set, but I also think that if we push ourselves outside our comfort zone just a little bit, we're going to push harder to get to a higher level. Even if we don't reach that big, hairy, audacious goal, we're going to get higher than we were. So the realistic to me, we're going to throw that aside. And the R is resonant. And the resonance is just such a great word, right? Heart and vibration in you, where like if running a marathon is a thrilling goal, the resonance for me was doing it somewhere warm, in December, like let's escape Calgary in December and go to Honolulu. Like that resonated with me, a destination marathon. It hadn't even occurred to me when I was planning that. So then all of a sudden I was getting excited about running a marathon, but I still wasn't running. So the A to me, you said, what was the A that you had?
Specific, measurable, accurate, or attainable or accurate.
Attainable, accurate.
Yeah.
And either way, like to me, like the attainable one that I use, I think that's redundant because aren't we setting goals because we want to achieve them? Yeah. Seriously. So like toss it aside. And this A that I include in the book, it's the game changer, and it's accountability. The hard part about accountability is you've got to bring someone or something into your goal setting process to hold you accountable to actually do the freaking work. Yeah. Right. And for me, I wasn't running. So I joined a Honolulu Marathon training program with 27 other people who had the same goal as I did. And they held me accountable. And then specific and measurable are the same. And, it's 26.2 miles on December, whatever it was, 2010 when I ran my marathon. So it's a little more fun. Yeah.
Now, how do you think because at one point in the book, you talk about bags, big, hairy, audacious goals. And when you get to that, it's almost bordering on vision, right? There's a point where goals project out to a vision of where you want to be. And with those really big goals, we can't always control that. We can know the first few steps, but then the rest sort of makes itself up as we go, right? And what I want to ask you, one of the things I talk about is you have to trust that when you set that intention, you will, whether it's about your reticular activating system, seeing the opportunities, or think on a more spiritual level about attracting the opportunities in people, things will happen that'll make the path. Does that fit at all with your thoughts?
100%. Like our brain is such a fascinating organ, and your brain wants you to be happy and successful. Like whatever you feed it, it wants you to experience that thing so badly. It'll work until it gets you what you want. And so if you kind of open up this idea of the big goal, writing the book, running the marathon, taking a year off to do a sabbatical, whatever, the brain now goes, oh, well, isn't this an interesting problem that I need to solve? It hadn't even occurred. The brain didn't have that problem to think about before. So now you've laid down the initial neural pathways to say, wow, like that's kind of scary. You might be looking at, I can remember when I was thinking about running the marathon, it's like, geez, that's a long way to go. But until I started thinking about that, I couldn't ask myself, well, how can I make that happen? Right. And that's the power of the goal setting, because when we set the goal, it starts the process going. When we write it down, we imprint. And that little process of writing down gives our brain enough time to move that goal from short-term memory into long-term memory, where it can taunt you. That's what I say, right? So it's not going to go away. And that's like the marathon never went away. The writing the book never went away, because the long-term memory is going, okay, what about this goal? What about it? You haven't been doing anything with it. And so then all of a sudden you have to feed yourself the information. And we will often say, I can't do it. And we'll push it aside. And then the brain will say, all right, my work here is done. But here's the power. when we can get it into the long-term memory and then start to give the brain permission to work on it, let's put it that way. If instead of saying, it can't be done, we ask ourselves, how can I make it happen? How might I? Appreciative inquiry, if you will. How might I run a marathon in Honolulu in December? How might I take a year off sabbatical? How might I get this book written? The brain's going to spend time trying to come up with answers, and it's not necessarily going to have them right away. So our instant gratification society has to take a deep breath. But all of a sudden, the universe starts sending you messages on, oh, look, there's a Honolulu Marathon training program at the University of Calgary where I happen to be an alumni. You just start seeing things that you didn't see before.
You had a Honolulu training program in Calgary?
Yeah, we trained from April till December, and then we all flew to Honolulu in December.
I love it.
Yes.
See, but I mean, who would have known?
Well, you want to escape Calgary in December. That's
well, I've lived in
but who would have known? It wasn't on my radar until I imprinted the idea in my brain, and all of a sudden, so we're on the exact same page there. It's, we as optimistic human beings, we need to, give our brain the right information to work on, and then be patient as kind of life unfolds. Pay attention to the signs, and when they show up, take a step towards them, do something with that, and then the next sign will appear, and the next sign will, I believe it.
So the other building block I want to touch on before we dive into your equation is your motivation matrix, which is about belief and discipline. And, I chuckled that, it's like, it's part of our path as speakers. We have to have a 2x2 matrix.
Well, and I stumbled on it by accident because, and you can probably relate to this. I mean, you speak on a topic for however many years, and the message transforms over years to something that you realize, I got something here. And it's when I was writing the book that I realized, okay. So the success energy equation for your listeners is this idea that success is about having, goals that you're excited about, but then having belief in the goal and yourself to achieve it, the discipline to do the freaking work, and then the goal and all of that is raised to the power of awesome by the energy within. It's my math version. I'm not a mathematician.
See, the nuclear physicist in me loved you. That you brought an equation to it.
Yes, I have some engineer friends who are pleased as well. But here's the thing. Most of us will have success if we set the goal and then we have belief in ourselves and the discipline to do the work. But the belief and discipline is an interesting thing because depending on the goal, we're going to have different levels of motivation towards it. So I have the belief on one axis and discipline to do the work on the other axis. And then I have 4 motivation types: the dreamer, the driver, the seeker, and the grinder. So the dreamer is high belief in self and low discipline. So I know that I want to do that thing. I'm just not doing anything about it yet. A lot of us spend time there for the things that we want to be doing for ourselves. And then we'll kind of hold off just because the rest of our life is chaotic. The seeker is low belief in self and task and low discipline for the task. So that's, you could say that is the unmotivated, failure to launch son that's playing video games in your basement. But a lot of times it's just, we've stumbled on a goal or task that's not in alignment with what we really should be doing for ourselves.
But also, I'd say that's a lot more people in 2020 with COVID.
A little bit lost. And that was me in July and August, I'll be honest. Most of my speaking gigs all got pushed into online or into 2021. And once I finished my last gig in July, I was like, now what? This is going to go on. I was a little bit down on the dumps. Why bother? Low belief in self, low belief in actually doing any work. Mm-hmm. And we fall into that.
It's called being human.
It's called being human. And that's why I say with the 4 motivation types, every single one of us will experience all of them depending on the task we're trying to tackle. And if we can pay attention to what's working when we're in that dreamer space or in that driver space, particularly high belief and high discipline, then that's where we can tap into, the stuff that's important to us, the stuff that we should be spending more time at, or the tactics that we need to apply to the areas where we're feeling a little less motivated.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is to sort of pull things together. The last question I'd really like to get into here is this whole thing about getting the discipline to get off the couch, to build the energy. What would you say are, for people that have been feeling that meh over 2020, that it just, and what are the simplest, say, 3 high leverage things people can do to start this journey besides picking up your book?
Yeah. I mean, the discipline piece, I always say that, like, it's not about the education that you have. It's not about the degrees or the letters behind your name. It's about that willingness to dig in and do the work. You do that, you're going to be successful. But if you're having that, I don't want to do anything, I will often say, go the first place you want to go is to where you're lit up a little bit. Like, do something that you enjoy, even if it's not work related. It can be activity. It can be the hobbies that you have. It can be spending time with people that are positive, but kind of do something that feels like it's that you're kind of motivated to do. I would challenge people to stay away from, I'm motivated to watch Netflix, or I'm motivated to play games on my phone. But sometimes even just getting out in nature is a good way of kickstarting. And start small. Whatever it is that you feel you want to be spending time at and you're not doing it, schedule it in small steps. The book that I wrote previous to this one is called Energy Now, Small Steps to an Energetic Life. And I'm a big believer in momentum. If you can start, it's going to create that, momentum to move forward. And if you move forward with momentum, you're going to get results, and that's going to motivate you to keep going. So take a small step, take another small step tomorrow, take another small step the next day.
And celebrate them. Yeah. And the last thing I would say, especially in these times, is, don't be so darn hard on yourself. Like, this is crazy times that we're in. And so if you're feeling it, know that it's normal. And if you're feeling it and it's frozen you, then don't be afraid to seek help, because these are crazy times, and reaching out and having a conversation with a professional or a coach or a trusted friend or colleague is the single best thing that you can do, just to confirm that you're not the only one. I'm really glad you said that, because I think it is important. I think there's a lot more people with mental health challenges, and we can sometimes get ourselves up, and sometimes we do need help. Absolutely. And it's okay, because this is what we're living through right now. We are going to get through it at some point. And, whatever's happening, we're all still learning how to navigate all of this, from business to our personal lives to socializing to everything. And so don't expect to have all the answers. I sure don't. And so, day by day. Right. So, Michelle, your book, The Success Energy Equation, is on Amazon. It's on Amazon. You can also go to successenergybook.com. If you buy it directly from me, I will send you a signed copy. Amazon and Indigo and successenergybook.com available now. So the successenergybook.com, is there a dash in it or no? Nope. Just one word, successenergybook.com. Yeah, okay. Thanks. And if people want to connect with you and follow you a bit more, where are the best places to find you? Well, to keep it simple, they can find me through successenergybook.com, because there's a link there to my speaker website. There's a link to all my social channels. I'm on YouTube and post weekly videos. I'm on Twitter and Instagram if you want to see pictures of my dog on Instagram. You do put one or two on there. Yeah, one or two. But yeah, successenergybook.com is the best place to find me. And yeah, reach out, say hi, tell me what you're thinking about these crazy pandemic times we're living in, and good things that are happening to you despite all of it. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you found it of value, could I ask you a favor? Could you share it on social media and perhaps share what made it so useful to you. That's how we spread word about this. And if you've got a moment, if you could go onto iTunes or wherever you get your podcast and do a quick review on this and share again what made it so useful to you. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Running 'cause I don't know where to go. Walking will just take too long and I can't take it slow. I'll keep on pushing 'cause I know I'll take it farther. And everyone that knows me knows that I am stronger. Leave it all behind, I don't need nothing to distract me. Nothing can get in my way, I know that I'll run free. I got the energy, it's all I need to finish. And everyone that knows me knows that I can do this. Yeah, I know that I can.